I would walk into school with eye bags under my eyes because I had just finished an all-nighter. Had to finish a video off last night because the client wanted it to get done, but it was all worth it because I just been paid $2.50. It wasn't a lot of money. In fact, that $2.50, it took me an entire week of work to do. But that didn't matter to me because what was more important is this was proof. It was proof that making money online was actually a real thing. For 16-year-old me, I didn't even know this was possible. From that day on, I grinded my ass off. I'd be editing every single day, trying to get more clients, still within the Fortnite space, me working on my shitty laptop. Within 5 months, I upgraded from my shitty laptop, which didn't have a GPU. Literally, my dad bought it just for school, but I used Premiere Pro on it. I upgraded from that to my first proper PC. And from there, I continued working hard as hell, got into content editing, so editing more of the YouTube videos. And by December 2022, I had my first 10K month. And on paper, that sounds amazing. Like, I'm 17 years old, so this all happened a month before I turned 18. And I literally just made over 10K per month. I'm on a 6-figure salary as a fucking kid. It sounds amazing. But we kind of just glossed over the last few years where honestly, it felt like shit. Because to get to that point, what it took me, honestly, it was fucking everything. Like, everyone kind of glamorizes entrepreneurship. Everyone talks about, oh, how to make 10K per month, how to do all these things. Nobody wants to talk about the time where you'll be stuck in your room working on a project and you're living in the same house as your family, but you haven't seen them in days. Throughout that period of February 2021, of when I first started, to December 2022, I fell into periods of depression. I fucking hated my life at times. But I stand here today. It's April 2024. It was so fucking worth it. If I could go back to that version of myself, I still don't know why he worked so hard, but he set me the fuck up for my life. I'm currently 19 years old. I'm working with some of the largest channels in the world. Currently, I'm working with The Sidemen, a channel with 20 million subscribers. I work from home, I don't go university, I don't have like a normal job, and I'm doing this at 19 years old. Me pursuing editing, which is a business, me pursuing business and entrepreneurship, it's changed me as a person. If you could see me a few years ago, the demeanor I had, just the way I acted and how much responsibility I put on myself, you wouldn't even believe we're the same person. What I love about business is it forces you to change. It forces you to improve. I had to learn how to become more productive. I had to learn how to manage my sleep. I had to learn how to become more confident just so I could speak to more clients. Like, I had to learn all these things, and I wouldn't have unless I got into business. What I want to talk to you about today isn't the simple, oh, here's how to do this one effect, here's how to like create an animation, here's how to get clients, because honestly, that stuff is actually the easy part. I know right now you might struggle to get clients, and this kind of hurt your ego for me to say like, oh yeah, getting clients is the easy part while you're still struggling. I know that can kind of feel a bit personal, but just hear me out. I'm saying this out of love for you. The actual editing part isn't what's hard. It's more you operating as a person and not wanting to kill yourself throughout that time. Before you go ahead on your journey as a video editor, where, okay, if you just want to make like a couple of $100 a month, I'll be real, this channel isn't for you. But if you have a big goal with editing, the first thing is you need to set the goal and then understand that the reason you aren't at that goal yet is because you're not good enough yet. And that's not a bad thing. If you already were good enough to achieve the goals that you wanted, you have a goal of maybe 5K, 10K, whatever number that your mind has arbitrarily set, like whatever that number is, if you were good enough to have already been making that, you would have been making that right now. You wouldn't be watching a video teaching you how to do it. And I think the reason I was able to progress so quickly is I think I just fundamentally had that belief where it was like, yeah, I'm not the shit and I'm okay to be proven wrong. If there's someone that is making more money than me and they tell me a certain thing, I'm not gonna go pipe up and say, actually, I think my thing is right. Actually, I have this excuse. It's because I have school that I can't. Like, if someone more successful than me is telling me to install a certain belief, I'll basically just turn my brain off and consume that. So when I was a few months into editing and I was making about $400 a month, I believe, I was kind of stuck at that. This was at a point where I'm working every single day for hours a day while in school, and I'm making $400 a month. Like, that wasn't even minimum wage for how much time I was working. I literally had to look at myself and say, okay, you've achieved a certain amount, because you did well, you've been working, but the reason you're not making more, it is your fault. You are doing something wrong, and it's not because of anything external. You need to take full responsibility. No matter what excuse you have, you need to just fundamentally believe that everything is your fault. And as soon as we've done that, we can start changing our behaviors and actually start moving towards our goals. Because fundamentally, you already know what you need to do in order to make the money you want. You know you would be making a lot more money if you were more productive. You actually started editing more. You improved that editing. You would outreach. If you started building your brand. If you started learning more and started like investing not only your time but money as well into like you reading books. You know what to do. But the problem is when you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to work. I'm going to go edit. I'm going to go do a deep work session. You sit down, but it's like your behavior doesn't align with what you told yourself you would do. You told yourself you'd work, but you sit down and then you open up Twitter. You told yourself you'd get better at editing, but then whenever you get a chance to improve and you get a client for however many bucks, you rush the video and don't actually try on it. Like, you know deep down what you need to do in order to make more money. The problem is aligning your behaviors. If we could get you to a point where you were able to actually do the behaviors required to get to your goals, if we just made it easy for you, you would make the money that you want. We're going to move over to the Miro board now, where I'm going to show you exactly the system that has helped me in order to align my behaviors where the work honestly seems easy. So before we're able to actually change our behavior, we need to understand why we do things. There's only two reasons that you'll do anything. There's conscious actions and there's subconscious actions. Conscious actions are basically your brain has given you a thought and you are acting on that thought. Subconscious is basically you didn't have to actively think about it. When you're breathing right now, right? When you watch this video, you're blinking. Like, you're doing these actions, you're not actively thinking, I need to inflate my lungs. Like, this is happening without you thinking. That's subconscious. When it comes to how much of your behaviors are conscious and how much are subconscious, how much would you think that you're in control? We would think like, okay, maybe like 80% of our actions are conscious and maybe like 20% are subconscious. You'd be surprised of how little we actually have to think about what we do with our lives. Like, how much of our behaviors is just subconscious. Okay, maybe you're thinking it's like more like 50%. Maybe it's like 20%. Like, that would be crazy, right? There's literally research to show there's only about 5% of our behaviors, our actions, they're literally the things you do with your body that are conscious. And then 95% of your behaviors, of everything you do, you're not even thinking about. So when you breathe, you're not thinking about that. When you blink, you're not thinking about that. Even when you work, a lot of the time you're not even thinking about that either. In fact, you watching this video, the high chances you're not even conscious while watching this. You're not thinking like, oh, so you said this thing and this is how it applies to my life and let me think critically about that. You're just taking it in subconsciously, and this is how we basically go about our lives. We like to all think that we are these free thinkers, we all are in full control, but the truth is, whether you think you're some crazy, like on some self-improvement grind and you are conscious of your actions and you're so mindful and stuff, it's like, the truth is we're all like this. What more successful people have managed to do is align their subconscious and basically make it so that their subconscious behaviors align to their goals. Right now, what's happened with you and what was with me for so long, my conscious actions were towards my goal. My goal was to make money editing. My actions that I knew I needed to do were basically edit and be productive and like basically just learn consciously. If I did these two actions, I knew I'd make progress. So when I would sit down and I would force myself to work, I could make it so that I do productive actions. But when I was basically mindless, which once again is 95% of your time, I still know that I need to do these things, but I would just end up going on Twitter. I would end up distracting myself. I would just accidentally, I knew that I needed to come home from school, work, and basically get a video done, but the time would just somehow pass by. I would just distract myself. I'd go eat. I would go on my phone. Then by the time that I actually can force myself and I catch myself that I have been unproductive, it'll be 8, 9 p.m. and I need to go back to sleep soon. And if I do go to sleep, I basically got no work done. If I don't sleep, I'll do an all-nighter again. This is what happens when your subconscious actions aren't in alignment with your goals. So what is the thing that drives our actions? 95% of our actions are subconscious, and clearly it's not our thoughts. Because if you were genuinely mindful during those times, you would never have a session that you were unproductive, because you could constantly remind yourself. What basically influences these actions, these subconscious actions, is your beliefs. Your beliefs will change the actions that you take, because you're not, so thoughts will maybe change 5% of your actions, but most of your actions are changed by your beliefs. So if we can change our beliefs, you will find working easy. It will be harder for you to not make money than make money. Like, you'll make money by accident. This sounds weird, but I find it hard to make less than around 5-6k a month. Just by me doing like a little bit of work here and there. I'll just edit like one video a week and I'll make 5k. That's because I've aligned my beliefs to my goal. So let's talk about beliefs, because I know this is a bit of like a wishy-washy word. You have certain beliefs about yourself, a certain way that you see yourself, our self-image. This sounds weird, but you aren't yourself. We kind of go about our lives, but if you genuinely took a second, like you're watching this video now, if you just like closed your eyes and genuinely went into like a third person perspective, imagine you were looking at yourself. So I'm seeing myself right now at my desk. I'm sitting here with a camera in front of me, speaking words, my mouth is moving, my arms are moving around. Like, I can control my movement. You can basically see yourself in third person, and the way you saw yourself right now is your self-image. I see myself as someone who's speaking right now. I see myself as someone who can speak confidently. I see myself right now as someone who woke up early in the morning just to work. You see yourself in a certain way. When you're procrastinating, you see yourself procrastinating. When you aren't getting work done, when you aren't outreaching, you see yourself not outreaching. You call yourself unproductive. These beliefs, they were basically given to you by a few different things. One of them is your previous experiences. So if you, for 50 times in the past, you sat down to work and you didn't work, and you basically now have undeniable proof that you are unproductive, you will tell yourself, I am unproductive. You will tell yourself these things. If you also had, there's like social influences. This is honestly like a huge one. It's like your environment, it's your parents telling you certain things. If your parents always told you, oh, you're always so lazy, you're so unproductive, you keep wasting time, you will start genuinely believing these things, and you will say, wait, I am unproductive, I am lazy. When your parents tell you something enough times, you can tell them, oh, I'm trying, oh, I'm doing these things, but you start believing them. And that's not your fault. It's like, if your authority figure in your life tells you a certain trait that you have, you will just start believing it, especially if they told you it as a kid. There's probably a certain trait that your parents have told you that you have when you were a kid, literally when you were like 10 years old. Your parents used to always call you smart, so you believed you were smart. Or maybe they said you were so lazy all the time, so you believed that you were lazy. They said you were so good at sport, so you actually became good at sports. You still believe you're good at sports. Oh, you're so obsessed with this one thing, and you are still obsessed with that one thing. The things that our parents and the things that even friends, anyone says to us, it starts infiltrating our belief system. So you need to be extremely careful of the beliefs that you choose to hold. Because that belief, let's say you have the belief, I am productive. If you tell yourself and you genuinely believe that you are a productive person, how much more likely would it be that when you sit down, you actually stay focused? The best way to stay focused isn't by doing like all these protocols, like even like deep work protocols. This isn't like the best way to become more productive. It's important, and short term it does work. You can force yourself to do 3 hours of work, but until you genuinely believe that you are a productive person, you focusing and you doing these protocols will feel hard. The person that sees himself as a productive person, it's actually easy for him to focus. You might not believe it, but for some people, they can work for 4 hours in a row and like they find that easy. While you are scared of burnout, they genuinely get scared of not working. And when you do a certain action, what happens is you get feedback. This is basically, you have done an action and there is now a consequence for that action, cause and effect. When you push a bottle over, the bottle will fall. When you like heat something, when you put something in a microwave and turn it on, that's the cause. You have done something to this thing, and the effect is the thing heats up. Every single effect, so anything that happens in your life will have a cause. So if you want to get work done, the cause of this consequence will be you have sat down to work. So basically the belief is I am productive. The action is you actually sit down and work and focus because that's your default state. It's the 95% of your unconscious actions. And the feedback is I get work done. This is a consequence of my actions. Once this feedback has happened, it basically you interpret that. This is your interpretation. You using your sensory functions, so your eyes, your fucking smell, whatever, your ears, your brain, you interpret this consequence either positively or negatively. I got work done. That means that I had a productive session. When you feel good after you get a session of work done. Maybe you're not constantly productive right now, but you have days where you get like an hour of work done and you're actually proud of yourself. When that happens, you interpret that as I had a productive session. You consciously think that. And then that feeds into your beliefs. The more times that you have a productive session, the more you will believe, I am a productive person. And when you believe that you're a productive person, you will naturally be more focused because that's just who you are. Meaning you get more work done, meaning you have more productive sessions, which means you register that as I am a productive person. This is why once you get into the role of things, it becomes so much easier. I promise you the hardest life is ever going to be is right now. It only gets easier from here. If you can put yourself through the shit, if you can basically force yourself to act out of your beliefs now, so basically force positive beliefs in you now and do positive actions which contribute towards that positive belief now, it feels like shit, but it only gets easier. Because if you can force actions here, if you can intersect here, and even if you have a bad belief, you just do the actions, you could think you're unproductive, but you still focus, you force yourself to do a protocol, the deep work protocols, I talked about that last video, you will get work done. Maybe not crazy amounts of work done, but more work done than you usually do. And when you get a little bit more work done, you need to interpret that as I had a productive session. A trap that I fell into was I would try to change my actions. I would become a little more productive by basically like, oh, I'll try to sit down, I'll put my phone in another room, I'll close out of Twitter, I'll close out of Discord, I'll do the actions of a productive person. I'll get a little more work done, but then I would beat myself up for not having a perfect session. I would say, oh, but I still opened Twitter a couple of times, so look, I'm still unproductive. You need to stop basically beating yourself up, because otherwise you tell yourself, oh, I'm still like, I did a little bit better, but I'm still really shit. Like, look, I can't be productive. And you're still feeding into that negative belief. Whenever you make a little bit of progress, you need to recognize that. When you make $20 extra that week, recognize that. When you get 15 minutes more work done that day, recognize that. Tell yourself, like, you did that. Look, you are someone that can make money. You are someone that can work productively. If you're watching videos like this, you're a lot more ambitious than the average person. So when you're here right now, you set yourself a goal, and maybe because your goal is so big, you end up coming up short of your goals, and that's okay. But then you end up beating yourself up because you are so ambitious, and it can be nice to hold yourself accountable, but long term, it actually does you more detriment. It serves you better to just say, like, bro, look at how much progress you've made. Stop focusing on how much further you have to go. Like, oh, I had a session, but look, I could have been more productive. Stop focusing on that, because then you're not motivated to keep going. Measure the gain. Whenever you make progress, measure how much you've gained rather than measuring the gap. Bro, think about this. You kind of beat yourself up when you realize you're not making a lot of money editing. And sure, like, the fact that you're not making money editing, it should cause you some pain. That's like a drive. But when you feel like genuinely fucking like depressed, suicidal, and you feel like all hope is lost, that's when you need to stop and think like, wait, I have actually made progress. Just a few months ago, I didn't even know how much work I was capable of. The work I'm doing now, I couldn't even imagine doing that a couple of years ago. That's measuring the gain. So you can intercept here, basically positively reframing events. When you have like a shitty session, try to see what went well, and maybe, okay, there's things that could go better, but notice when you have put in action that you can see the gain, you can see what progress you've made. So this is basically like more short term. You force yourself to do an action, and then you need to see it as a good thing, see the results, see the fruits of your labor, and then see that I am becoming this person. I am becoming more of a productive person. We're talking about this in more of a productivity sense, but honestly, this applies to every area of your life. What we call this is the cycle of behavior. You will basically feed into whatever belief you have, and that belief will strengthen. Let's say that your goal is you want to become more creative. You have a current belief about yourself. Just the second you heard this word, there's certain thoughts that came up in your head. Maybe you were thinking, oh, I'm already super creative. But more likely than not, maybe you are someone that says, oh, I'm not that creative, I should really listen. You have a certain belief about yourself when it comes to creativity. I am not creative. Let's say this is the phrase that you would say. You have this belief, and when you have a certain belief, what happens? You act in accordance to that. You will always act in accordance to your beliefs. Belief will always trump your conscience because it's 95% of you. If someone says that they're not creative, when they're editing, what's more likely to happen? Is it likely that they'll experiment with effects, or is it likely that they won't experiment? So if you tell yourself you're not creative, you won't experiment with effects. You'll be too scared. Like, basically, this won't be conscious. Remember, this isn't like you tell yourself that you're not creative and then you won't experiment. It's like this happens by accident. You will just naturally, you'll be scared. You'll be scared of like making a shit video. You'll be scared of making mistakes, basically. This will manifest within your behavior without you thinking. When you don't experiment, what happens? What feedback do we get? What is a consequence of us not experimenting? We don't make new edits. So we don't learn new effects. We don't learn anything new. So then how does our brain interpret that? I haven't been creative. So this is like your interpretation. I haven't been creative. My edits aren't that creative, whatever. If you keep doing it again and again, you will start believing even more that I am not creative. And then that changes your behavior. That manifests into your results. That you will interpret it, and that will feed into your belief. This is why so many editors struggle with being creative. The reason they struggle with being creative isn't because they have like some genetic fucking disability where they're not creative or like, bro, the reason is they literally just don't experiment, and it's because they have the identity of someone that isn't creative. The way you become more creative in a weird way, you intersect here, you almost just delude yourself that you can be creative. If you have a goal, you will never achieve that thing until you genuinely believe that goal is possible. If you have big dreams, you fundamentally need to believe that it's possible. So you need to stop saying that I'm not creative or it's hard to be creative, and just start saying I am creative. Like maybe even you say like, oh, my last few edits haven't been creative, but I am a creative person. It's just that my last few edits haven't been creative. When you say phrases like these, when you say that I am like whatever, these are extremely powerful phrases. I don't think most people realize you saying these things, it changes your objective reality. When I hear people say I am lazy or I am unproductive or I am a certain thing, I don't understand why you would ever follow that with a negative trait. You're literally just sabotaging yourself. Whenever I'm speaking about business or I'm speaking about like what I've done, or when someone asks me for advice, I'll keep it real. When I go into a lot of conversations now, I like talking about business, and a lot of my friends, a lot of even people that I'll meet, or a lot of people that like try learning from me, they'll ask me certain questions about business, and I'll give them my advice, and I'll say like, oh, this is what worked for me and this is what I think you should do. And I would tell them what to do, and then they would always come back with some sort of excuse. Usually it would be some sort of excuse. It's like, oh, but I have school, but I have this thing, I have that thing. And I'll tell them, oh yeah, I had school as well. You can just like get work done during like your break. You can, when you come back home, get work done. Before school, get work done. Like you can make the time. And they'll tell me that I would, but it's just, I'm too lazy, man. You know what? I've always been so lazy. I've never been productive. And I just sit there like, why would you tell yourself those things? Of course, if you tell yourself you're lazy, you're going to naturally act lazy. If I tell someone some advice and they say I'm lazy, when they go back home, are they likely to take the advice that I said? Of course not, because, oh, they're lazy. They're gonna act in accordance of it. I would never tell myself a phrase. I will never tell myself I'm not creative. I'll never tell myself I'm lazy, because I'm not going to self-sabotage, and you shouldn't either. There's going to be broke people in your life that tell themselves these things. They're going to tell themselves like, I'm lazy, and you're going to start laughing alongside them like, oh, me too, trying to be relatable. Don't tell yourself those things. Don't laugh along when someone says that they're lazy. You don't have to tell them all of this bullshit of like, oh, this is actually your limiting beliefs and this is going to manifest within your actions. You don't need to try explaining this. This is like more of an advanced thing that you're learning now. But don't laugh along and say that you are unproductive as well, because the words you say to yourself will manifest into your actions, and that will change all the results you get. What you say to yourself manifests in your reality. Force these phrases into your head. Just tell yourself you're creative. Tell yourself you're a high level editor. If you tell yourself I'm a shit editor or I'm really bad at editing, when you get a client video, are you likely to actually try on that video or not? Sure, you might say you're trying, but subconsciously, remember, this is all subconscious. You will naturally just not be able to get a good video, and you won't understand why. You will literally be scared to try new things. What I highly recommend doing is there's something called belief journaling. You might have heard those phrases of people saying like, question everything, like never believe everything you trust. There is genuinely like a lot of truth to that. Of course, you can take this too far where you go like into all this conspiracy shit of like, oh, the government and like all this shit, like the government is doing the scheme and whatever. Like people say these things, and the thing is, this might be true, it might not be true, but why would you give a fuck? We talked about this earlier in the video. Why would you give anything else power over yourself? The government might be doing all this shit to keep you poor or whatever. Inflation is like, look, this is why I'm poor, because of inflation. This is like what you hear everyone saying. Your uncles, your aunties, like your parents maybe even. But why would you give that control? It's like, oh, the reason I'm poor is because of this thing. It's like, you can work regardless. This sounds kind of like narcissistic or whatever, but I don't feel the effects of inflation. There's entrepreneurs and like there's people with expenses that live out of their parents' house and they have all these things and they don't feel the effects of inflation because they make more than enough money to keep up. The problem is so many people keep telling themselves, oh, this is why I'm poor, this is why I'm poor. They never end up making money, and that becomes true. It's like they tell themselves that the government is the reason why they're poor. Inflation is the reason why they're poor. It's so hard. The job market is why is the reason that I'm poor. So they don't go and work because, hey, even if I did work, it's like this would still stop me. So they actually don't make money, which they interpret it as the job has made me not, like the job market has made me, or the government has made me not achieve my financial goals. Therefore, look, I was right. It was everything else other than me. Like you hear all these people saying certain beliefs around you. Most people have beliefs that do not serve them. If you spoke to your friends about business now, what do they say? I'm too busy to start a business. It's too hard. It takes money. Like this is a huge one. Like people think that it takes money to start a business. Bro, I started, like I'm not from like a fucking rich household. My parents, I basically was raised with my dad working like 2-3 jobs at the same time. I couldn't buy a PC. I couldn't afford a PC, bro. I would watch these top 10 like teenager PC setups tours, you know those like setup tours you'd see on YouTube. I would watch those and I'd be jealous, bro, because like I would ask my dad for a PC and he would say we'll get one, but we'd never end up getting one, and I never understood it back then, but it was because we just straight up couldn't afford it. So I'd be working on my laptop, which basically some shitty like Ryzen 5 4500U. So it's like a laptop processor. It would overheat like crazy. There was no GPU. Like I just cracked Premiere on it. Like I just made it work. This is the laptop that I got for school. I just made an editing career out of it. I had the fundamental belief that I can make money without needing upfront capital, without needing to spend money upfront. All these beliefs around money, around business, even things like around work. Things like, oh, you're going to burn out if you work too much. This is a belief that most people have. You probably have this. I don't want to work too much because I'm going to burn out. It sounds strange as hell, but the periods that I made the most progress in my career and the periods I worked hardest in, even now, the period that I'm in now, I just fundamentally didn't give a fuck about burnout. Like, I just told myself, like, I can work harder than everyone else. I can work all day and I won't burn out. As long as I do, like, all the social life things and I'll do a few things, like, if I have the basics, as long as I'm, literally, this is my thing, as long as I'm drinking water and I go out of the house at least once a week, I won't burn out. I can work 12 hours a day. I just had that fundamental belief. Why would you tell yourself that, oh, if I work hard, I'm going to burn out? Why would you tell yourself that? Because then you're going to end up not working, so you're not going to burn out. So you're going to say, oh, see, I didn't work and I didn't burn out. That means if I did work, I would burn out. Like, you're feeding into that belief. Just work. Even if you do get burnt out once, like, it's a fucking experience. You're never going to know how hard you can work until you actually work until the brink of burnout. Phrases like, oh, you work too hard. I don't believe that this is physically possible. I have friends right now that tell me I work too hard. In fact, I'll keep it real. Like, I've dropped friends before because they kept telling me this thing and it fucked up my belief system. I won't keep a friend if they keep telling me that I work too hard and I should take weekends off. I haven't taken a break on a weekend fucking ever. I just don't agree with the notion that weekends are for breaks. It's like, bro, weekends were literally, I'm pretty sure like, it was like literally 200 years ago that weekends are a man-made thing. Your body doesn't know what a Wednesday is. It's Sunday right now. My body, like, your biological clock doesn't say, oh, it's Saturday and Sunday, we need to take a break. Like, your body doesn't know what a weekday and a weekend is. So why would you change your work ritual to the weekday when it's a man-made thing? It's like, there's nothing that objectively says you have to or you can't work on weekends. So it's these small events when I would be, let's say, going out with my friends on a Tuesday and they'll say, oh, can you come out on Saturday? And I'll say, oh, no, I'm working that day. I want to work. And they'll say, wait, what? You work on weekends? Like, no, you should take a break. You should take a break. Before, I used to listen to them. And honestly, that was when I stopped making progress in my career. Like, I would start listening to them. I would start taking weekends off. I literally felt depressed as hell, bro. I liked working. And it was always when I went back to working on weekends, when I went against like a societal norm, I felt happier. I made more money. If I feel happier working, why would I force myself to go against what makes me happy and makes me more money? Be okay with like going against the grain. If something makes you feel good, if you work at a certain time and it makes you feel more productive, who cares if your parents think it's weird? Take the time to genuinely sit down and write, what are the beliefs that you are currently operating off? If you have a behavior that you aren't proud of, if you're always tired, if you're always like lazy, if you're always unproductive, if you're always getting distracted, what is the belief that is causing that to happen? Every action that you are doing, if it isn't conscious, which is 95%, is from your belief. So there is some belief that has come from somewhere that you are operating off of. And a lot of the time it takes like, sometimes I promise you, it takes me hours, sometimes days, weeks, months, years to figure out where a certain belief has come from. I found that with time management, I would always just like, I'd be real, I was always someone that was late to things. Like, I was just someone that was late to stuff. If it was a like a family event, I would be late to it. If it was me going to school, I would be late to it. When it comes to homework, I would get it done, but it would always be last minute. I'd sometimes give it in late. Like, I was just a late person. And then my family would tell me, you have such bad time management. I'll never forget this. This is the phrase that they always say to me. And when your family, the people closest to you, literally like your blood, they tell you a certain phrase, you will believe it. So I started believing like, I have bad time management. This was my belief. Bear in mind, I'm literally like fucking 10 years old at this point. I'm a kid and they're saying this. And it was when I was 17. So this is before I was making like 10K a month. I was making, I think, about 1 or 2K a month. I kept finding myself like missing deadlines. Whenever I'd come back from school, I would wake up at 8 and I had school at 9, let's say. I had an hour to get to school. 1 hour was more than enough. It took me about 30 minutes to get to school. So let's say I had to leave the house at 8:30 for me to get to school. I would be ready by 8:30 and I was ready to leave. I had my shoes on, my bag ready. But for some reason, I would always managed to be late in school. If you saw my attendance in classes, it was like fucking 30%. I would be in school, I'd attend a lesson, but it was just late. But it didn't make sense because I'd wake up on time, I'd be ready on time. It turned out I would just always somehow find a way to be late. It's like, I'll figure out that I want to change my outfit. Oh, I need to quickly have a shower. Like, it'll be like 8:25 and I'll decide to have a shower at that time. I'll need to change something in my bag. There's this one research I need to do. My dad I need to help my dad with something. He's calling me. There was always something that would come up. This was me acting because of a belief. If I believe that I have bad time management, I will naturally do things that someone with bad time management would do. I genuinely believe that these were authentic reasons that I had to be late. Oh, I am late because I actually do need to like change my outfit. I do need to have a shower. My dad did actually call me. It felt like I was in control. But the truth is, I was operating off a belief that first of all didn't serve me. But second of all, I didn't even consciously pick this belief. Most of your beliefs, if you haven't done like this belief journaling practice, I promise you most of the beliefs that you're operating off of right now, the ones that are literally holding you back in your life, they're not even yours. It was given to you through your childhood, through your parents, through you experiencing it from other people, from your environment, from you being in school, from like movies that you've watched. These are beliefs that have infiltrated your brain and now you're operating off of them. And now your life is at a detriment. Or if you're doing extremely well, if you're super successful right now, your beliefs are extremely good. So if you're doing very well in life right now, well done. Like, look at the beliefs that you have and see like which ones have helped you. But if you're not where you want to be, there are beliefs that are holding you back. People that are more successful than you aren't special in any way. It's not the fact that they're smarter than you. It's not the fact that they got lucky. It's not the fact that their parents are rich. That's why, like, oh, I'm from India. That's why I'm not making. It's none of these things. Because there's someone with the exact same situation, the exact same excuses as you. While you were complaining and saying, I have school, that's why I can't edit. The more successful person was saying, I have school. That means that I have practice for becoming more productive. This is exactly how I saw it while I was in college. I hear so many editors complaining that they can't make money because they're in school. Motherfucker, I made money while I was in school. I was in full-time education. I was doing like maths and physics. I was doing the hardest subjects there were and I made over 10k per month. So shut up, you can't make even a couple K. I would edit, but I have school. Everyone has school. I told myself like, me having school, me being in full-time education, it's hard, yes. But this is practice. I get to practice being productive. If I can master being productive while in full-time education with like 8 hours of my day taken out, imagine when I'm out of school. When I have that positive belief around school and like how it affects my timetable, I'm gonna go do the actions of a more productive person. I'm gonna go, instead of me saying, like throwing my hands up and saying, I have school, that's why I can't edit. I would go create a Google Calendar and figure out exactly how I can make a productive timetable. I'll figure out how I can fit in an extra hour before school. I'll figure out how I can get all my work done while I was in class. I would figure out how I can read while in my break so I can go home and instead of having to do like all my studies and my revision at home, I'll just get it all done in class. I'll get it all done in my breaks. At home, I'll just edit. I'll figure out a way for it to work. And then what that does is I will actually get more work done. I will actually make more money editing. Therefore, I'll interpret this as I made money while I was in school. And then that feeds into my belief that I can make money while I'm in school. I know this was a super long video. I have no idea how long this is going to last, but I highly, highly, highly recommend, as soon as you've watched this video, take half an hour, take out a piece of paper, get a pen, do this physically, and just write, what beliefs do I hold that are holding me back? It will take you time. You won't think of anything straight away. You'll want to distract yourself. You'll want to open up Twitter because you get bored. Just sit there, no music, nothing else to distract you. Look back at your childhood. What phrases did your parents tell you? What did you experience that gave you a limiting belief? Because oftentimes it's not a huge traumatic event. It's these small things like you having a scarcity mindset around money because you grew up watching your parents in the shopping mall, like with 2 cartons of milk, comparing the prices of them. When you see your parents struggling with money, you genuinely build a belief that money is hard to come by. Money is scarce. We don't have a lot of money. You bring that identity, that belief into your adulthood, and then you act out of scarcity. So go do that practice now. I hope that helped, bro. I love you. Mwah.